are definitely on the road to WrestleMania coming up April 2nd and 3rd from AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Of course, the home of the Dallas Cowboys, and the Horn, your radio home in Austin for the Dallas Cowboys when they get fired up next season. And a man that knows a little something about WrestleMania joins me now on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline because he's been involved in quite a few. He is not only a WWE Hall of Famer, one of the greatest managers in professional wrestling history, from Memphis to WWE, WCW. He is the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Follow him on Twitter at Real Jimmy Hart. Jimmy, how are you?
Man, everything's great, but what a great introduction. But I have to say that I'm just glad to be mentioning the name of Jimmy Cornette and Paul Heyman and Bobby the Brain Heenan and all those great managers back in the day that I grew up watching, and I love them, man. They're awesome. But thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and let me ask you about that. So, you go back to the 80s and 90s when your heyday, and managers were such a vital part of pro wrestling. You mentioned Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, Paul Heyman in his early days as Paulie Dangerously. You look at Slick, you look at some of the great managers, Skandar Akbar here in Texas.
Yes.
What was it that made a good manager? Because you don't see it as much nowadays. So what was the one or two qualities that made a manager so good in wrestling?
Well, I think it's a little different for everybody. Some guys, you manage people that wasn't really great on the mic. They were good, but not great, and you had to sell tickets back then. Back in those days, you didn't get guaranteed paychecks. So whatever you drew, that's what you really made, percentage of the house. And so I think a lot of managers was used back then because in the ring, your wrestlers were unbelievable, but you had to really to make sure you drew the people into the buildings to make that money. And I think that's what they used a lot of the managers for, back in the day. And but my thing was just different. Everybody I had was great. I felt like I was the hood on a Cadillac. I mean, the Cadillac's great, but if the old hood on it's broke off, you ain't gonna buy the Cadillac, are you?
That's true. And you were a fan, but you did have some fantastic clients going back to Dino Bravo, and then the Honky Tonk Man and Greg Valentine, and the Natural Disasters, the Hart Foundation, of course. I wanted to ask you about one in particular. Let's go all the way back to 1982, one of the most famous programs in wrestling history. Jerry the King Lawler and the late great Andy Kaufman, and you were involved with that quite a bit. One of the things I wanted to find out, because I'd always heard that Andy Kaufman, in preparing for this and such, he was, not just a great wrestling fan, but he was almost a student of professional wrestling. Just talk for a second about what I guess the knowledge that that Andy Kaufman gained working with you and Jerry back in those days.
No, you're absolutely right. Andy Kaufman was great. His favorite wrestler was Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, and and he loved Elvis Presley. So every night after the matches, we used to have to go to Elvis's house. We'd sit outside across the street. That's before all the tourist thing happened. And we sit across the street, and he just watched the gate of people coming and going. And then he'd go there with a little Sharpie and put his name on the fence and everything else too. But he loved Elvis, and he loved the Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, man. But Andy stayed at my house a lot, and we traveled a lot together. I was put with him because to kind of coax him into getting into the ring. What happened is at night, he'd want to do his act outside the ring so bad. And you know how people are. It's like going to church. When you go to church at 12 o'clock, those people's stomachs start growling. Oh my gosh, how long is this going to go? How long is this going to go? And they love the sermon. They just wanted to get out of there. The same thing with wrestling. They love the matches, but at a certain time on Monday night, they had to be at work or school the next morning. So they needed to get out there. So we didn't want Andy to kill too much time out there. So I was able to out there to go, okay, Andy, that's good. Let's cut the act. Let's get in the ring and get our beating.
Right. Well, just a fantastic program and forever remembered in wrestling history. Let's get it to present day. Let's talk about WWE and WrestleMania. 2 nights. And this feels like they had WrestleMania last year in Tampa Bay at Raymond James Stadium, crowds, but it was kind of subdued. It was limited crowds. So this feels like almost like a coming out party after what the 2 years we've had with the pandemic and everything. This coming up in a month up in the Metroplex, this feels like a coming out party for WWE and for wrestling fans to come together and celebrate everything that is WrestleMania.
You're absolutely right. Every year for 38 years now, think about it. I was on WrestleMania 1 38 years ago. But every year it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people would come. And so it's so big now that we're going to have 2 days in Dallas, of course, the second and the third. The first, though, if you come down here on the first, you get to go to SmackDown. Keep your seats, though, because after SmackDown, you get to see The Undertaker inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I'm sure they'll add more to it, too, as the weeks go on. But that's going to be special. Then 2 days of WrestleMania, the second, third, and then the fourth. Don't forget, there's Monday Night Raw. So there's 4 big days, really. And there's so much stuff going on. They bring our merchandise trucks down, and there's so many special things going on all over the city. And it's just, I think it really, this year is going to be unbelievable because it's going to give the people a chance to come down, forget about everything that's happening in the world, forget about everything that happened a year ago with the COVID and everything else. And I think people are going to have so much fun and enjoy it so much. It's going to be great. It's going to be stupendous.
It's going to be stupendous. That's right. Give me one or two of your favorite WrestleMania moments from when you were involved. I mean, there's so many. You talk about going all the way back to the first WrestleMania there in Madison Square Garden. Just give me a couple of your highlights at WrestleMania.
Well, you just hit number one is WrestleMania 1, because like I always say, if that hadn't been successful, we wouldn't be talking on the phone now. It sure would be no WrestleMania 38. Mm-hmm. And then also there WrestleMania 3 for me, because I had 3 big matches on that. I had the Honky Tonk Man against Jake Roberts with Alice Cooper. I came after that was over, changed my jacket, went out with the Hart Foundation against the British Bulldogs, came back, changed my jacket again, and went out for a 3rd time on WrestleMania with Adrian Adonis against Rowdy Roddy Piper. So, like I said, every one I've been so excited about. But both those two are very, very special.
Absolutely, and some Hall of Fame talent right there. Talking about the Bulldogs and Hart Foundation, Adrian Adonis, and let's talk for a second. You just mentioned Undertaker going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year. I mean, and it's kind of funny. I know they'll add more inductees, but it almost seems like the Hall of Fame ceremony this year would be great with just the Undertaker. Talk for a second about your thoughts on the Undertaker taking his rightful place in the Hall.
Well, you know what? The Undertaker really has put food on our tables for so many years, And like I said before, nothing be taken away from him. He's a bigger than life character. The production for him was tremendous. But once the music stopped and he got in the ring, he could still hold his own. And like I said, he's had so many great matches. One of my favorites with him against Shawn Michaels, But each year you go, how can he top this? How can he top this? But he has every year. So he really deserves to go into it. And I'm so excited about that. You're absolutely right. They could probably just have the Undertaker match by itself, and people would still be happy with that.
Yeah, it's I think he's long overdue. He just retired though, so yeah, it's just just seems right, especially in the heart of Texas. Well, in the Metroplex anyway. Let's talk real quick about the main event. Winner takes all, title for title. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, WWE champion versus Universal champion. It doesn't get bigger than that. You've got your 2 world champions colliding in the ring at Jerry World. Talk for a second about that.
Well, I think the people are split on this. I think the people love Roman Reigns. I think, my opinion. And somebody asked me the other day, why? And I said, well, look, when you look out in that audience, if you don't like somebody, you sure ain't gonna buy their T-shirt, brother. And I sure see a lot of Bloodline T-shirts out there. Am I right or wrong?
Oh, you're right. Absolutely right.
I see them every night. So I'm sitting there going, I don't know what y'all people are looking at, but I'm telling you, both of these guys are talented. Both these guys are superstars. And I think it's just going to be tremendous. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. It's going to be a great match to cap off 2 nights of WrestleMania, the most stupendous WrestleMania, coming to us April 2nd and 3rd at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Get your tickets now. Make sure, if you can't make it there, make sure you join them on Peacock, streaming live both nights. He is the mouth of the South. He is the WWE Hall of Famer, Jimmy Hart. Follow him on Twitter at Real Jimmy Hart. Jimmy, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. You're one of my favorites. All the best to you. All the best in your travels. Be safe, be well, and we'll talk again soon.
Well, we love you, big man. And don't forget those WrestleMania tickets you can get at SeatGeek.com. And the tickets for the SmackDown and for Raw is, of course, with Ticketmaster. But we love you guys. Thank you so much.